you on the radio side, so we're good. George
Okay.
Fraser, what up? Wait, I gotta start this tape too, otherwise that'll be a whole bust. George Fraser is the CEO of FraserNet. I call him the master networker. He is about building wealth, transferring wealth, and connecting Black folk throughout the diaspora so that they know once and for all that success runs in our race. He's an entrepreneur, he is a trainer, he's a speaker, but most importantly, George Fraser connects the dots. And so during this time of COVID, I said, you know what? I haven't talked to George Fraser in a minute. And so we need to connect the dots. Even during this time of a pandemic, we can still connect the dots, but there's some things we got to do and some things that we have to refocus our energies on to make sure that we are connecting the dots. What do Black folk need to do now, George Fraser? And welcome once again to Inspiration for the Nation.
And it is so good to see you, my brother. I haven't seen you in a long time, and you look great. You don't age. You know, Black people don't age, man. You got that melanin in your skin, and you're still at it. You're still serving the community. You're still doing God's work. Um, and I'm just glad to be back with you, and we'll pack a lot into the time that we have. But um, let me just say this to my brothers and sisters and still be loved. We have to stop being spectators to success.
Mm,
Being angry, brothers and sisters, is not a business plan.
talk to me.
We need strategies, not emotions.
Mm,
The effective use of relationship capital is the thing that we're going to have to really focus on post George Floyd, because the period now is going to be divided up into two periods: pre George Floyd and now after George Floyd. George Floyd was the meat it was part of a sandwich that God served us in 2020. That is Donald Trump, COVID-19, and George Floyd.
mm,
That's the triple threat. So I believe that has been an awakening for Black people, and now we're really going to have to understand the whole notion of not only the power and importance of the human capital and the relationships in our lives when we connect the dots so that we can leverage more effectively our collective resources and intellectual capital. I've been saying this for years and years and years and years. When we finally understand that until Black America puts Black America first, Black America will always be last. Okay, so it is on us to fix this. White people will not be saving Black people. White people ain't even thinking about Black people. You know what white people think about? They're thinking about white people. They're thinking about their husbands, their wives, their neighborhoods, their children, their businesses, their schools. They're not thinking about us. And you can't hate on them for that. They're thinking about them. That's what we ought to be doing. We ought to be thinking about us. They're doing everything they need to do to succeed, whether we like it or not, whether it's hate, it doesn't matter. They're doing what they feel they have to do to succeed. Now, we have to do what we have to do to succeed. And I think the conversation for the next 100 years is going to be two-pronged. It's going to be economics and wealth creation. Economics, economic development, and wealth creation. That economics must become the new Black power. That's what it has to become. That's what we are talking about at our Power Networking Conference. We've been talking about that for 19 years. We're now emphasizing it. The conference has now been awarded by Forbes magazine as one of the top 5 conferences in America not to be missed. We talk about only 2 things: business and money, business and money. The third thing, George, that we add is wellness, psychological wellness,
sure.
and physical wellness, because they are connected, right? We are psychologically wounded people. So we've got to work on that. But at the same time, we've got to operate on 2 tracks. Why? Because Black America is in an existential crisis. We really are. We are in an existential crisis. To be black and beautiful means nothing unless you're black and powerful in this world. We
Okay.
cannot, right? We cannot be black and proud and niggas too. Okay?
Ooh, okay.
White white folks are planning for 3 generations, George, and we're planning for Saturday night. The goal, brothers and sisters, is to win, not to look like we're winning. Yes, I would rather carry a plastic bag with $5,000 in it than to carry a $5,000 Louis Vuitton bag with $100 in it. You just looking like you winning. You ain't winning, brothers and sisters. Louis Vuitton is winning. Nike is winning. Armani is winning. You ain't winning. So we have to figure this out. It's interesting to me as a 75-year-old elder, as I observe rich white people. The rich stay rich by pretending to be poor, and the poor stay poor by pretending to be rich.
Right, right. What they said, there's two books, right? The Millionaire Next Door and the
Right.
Millionaire Mindset. Some
That's right.
those two books. And,
Classics.
right. And let me go back to something you said though, George Fraser, CEO of Fraser, that what black folks need to do now, because you said that folks are thinking about white folks, but we also find ourselves in a moment when a lot of attention is being focused on us by them. And so they are thinking about us right now. And
Well,
so in this
that's
moment,
right.
talk to me.
Yes. In the moment, that's brand spanking new. You have not seen that much love and that much investment and that much concern about the the fallout from white supremacy and white privilege. I think the horizontal lynching of George Floyd live and in living color around the world pushed a button that we are feeling the effects of, and there's a lot of love and there's a lot of empathy and sympathy being expressed by our brothers and sisters from the Caucasus Mountains, right? Our
Mm-hmm.
Caucasian friends. We'll see how long that lasts.
Right.
Right? We'll see how long it lasts. I hope it will last for a generation or two. But we, all right. Here's what I do know. They're not going to fix our problem.
Point blank.
They're not going to. We would love to. They will help us. They can be icing on the cake and the cherry on top. But they will never be the cake. We are the cake. We must bake the cake. And if they want to put some icing on it, we love them for that. So we have to work on that. It was Amos Wilson who said many, many years ago, the great Dr. Amos Wilson. If you don't know who Amos Wilson is, go on YouTube and look him up, Dr. Amos Wilson, and watch every video that he recorded before he died in 1995.
Mm.
One of the most important things that he said before he died, he said in 1994, he said, our refusal as black people to confront the issue of money and wealth is going to end up with our very lives being threatened as a people on this earth. He said that in 1994. Now we know that the wealth gap as we speak right now is massive and growing. Over the last 50 years, the income and wealth gap has enlarged, right? White folks in America control about $100 trillion of the wealth in this country, and black folks control about 2 trillion.
Hmm.
The average household median net worth of a black household, let's say in Boston, is $8, according to a headline published December 2018 that made worldwide news.
How much?
The average household median net worth of black Bostonians is $8.
$8.
White folks is $250,000. Now, That's just, now they're the extreme.
Hmm.
It isn't quite that bad, say in Cleveland or Los Angeles. Los Angeles, it's about the net worth of black people is about $3,500 and white people about $355,000. So there still is an enormous gap that we have to fix. They're just simply not going to fix it for us. So we have to understand what the Bible teaches us. We are outside of our own spiritual teachings, George.
Mm-hmm.
Proverbs 13:22 tells us what? That a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. Well, according to a front page article in the USA Today, fortunately, it was below the fold. There was an article about black baby boomers and their money. And let me quote the article for you. Black baby boomers will be the first generation of Africans in America that will raise another generation of Africans in America that will not do better than them. So, in the 400-year history of our people in this country, George, we are the only generation, black baby boomers, to raise another generation that will be worse off. We need our
Wow.
behind. That
Wow.
has never been done in the history of black people in 400 years.
Mm.
Shame on us.
Shame on us, for real.
Shame on us. I refuse to participate in that egregious statistic. And therefore, I have taken action. I believe that one of the most important things that we can do as a people is to do what slaves did when they became free. The first thing slaves did when they became free, George, was to build small classrooms so that they could educate themselves, then to build small schools, and then within 100 years, they had a whole system of historically black colleges and universities. They knew that education and literacy was the key to upward mobility. It just would take them some time to get there. Well, if we are a financially illiterate people, and we are at the bottom of every single economic statistic that matters in America, the first step is to attack the illiteracy issue around finances in our culture. So we have developed, since the last time I've talked to you, actually been working on it, a program called WINS, Wealth
Wins.
Building Centers and Curriculum.
Mm.
WINS, Wealth Building Centers and Curriculum. We designed our own culturally specific curriculum because black people learn differently than white people. We're oral, visual, tactile, kinesthetic, and auditory learners. And we are embedding this system for financial education in the historically black church because that is the most trusted, the most respected, the most loved institution in our culture. And this is where black people gather on Sunday. So if on Wednesday we can have Bible study, on Thursday, if we have a proper system that can be replicated and duplicated and scaled, on Thursday we can be talking about money.
Oh,
There's
no.
2,500 references in the Bible to money, right? 8 of Jesus's 39 parables are about money and economics. So there is a ecclesiastical or a spiritual base or religious base to money, right? So we are installing this in black churches. So this is how we are attacking the problem by executing a financial literacy and education program in the black church. So let me say that differently. Let me say this, brothers and sisters, and still be loved. Black people will progress without execution.
Mm.
It's okay to march. It brings attention to the problem. But at the end of the marching, and by the way, the marching will end,
Right.
you have to organize, and then you have to execute, execute, execute. You have to change laws. Dr. King did march, and then he stopped marching and started working on the politicians to get a civil rights law, to get a voting
Voting
rights
rights law.
law, to
Yeah.
get a housing law. You gotta execute something. You gotta move beyond marching. Now, marching has a role. Even writing has a role. I'm not encouraging writing, but it does have a role.
Get your
Everybody
attention.
has a role. But at the end of the day, you have to do something. You have to execute. So when it comes to financial illiteracy, we have to execute a curriculum and a system of financial education embedded in the historically black church, convince them that if we're studying the Bible on Wednesday, on Thursday or Friday, we could be studying about financial education and financial literacy.
So,
So,
George, how do people how do churches get this curriculum? Do they reach out to you? Do you come
yeah,
in and train them? And so that's
yes.
how they do it, because I think this
That's
is
how
a
they do it. That's
critical.
how
Yeah.
they do it. That's how they do it. All they need to do is email me at gfraser@frasernet.com. gfraser@frasernet.com. If they want to see our website, um, it is, oh boy, I forgot it right there. Um,
But
Win Center,
okay.
www.wincenter.com. Wins, WINDS center.com. Or .org. We're not a com. We're an org.
Wincenter.org.
Wins, WINDS, right? Center.org.
Great.
Right? That's how they can find out about financial education for their church, a system, a curriculum. We spent $250,000 building a culturally specific curriculum because Black people learn differently. We're oral, visual, tactile, kinesthetic, and auditory learners. We learn differently. This is why 80% of the people teaching urban children who don't look like their children don't really know how to teach their children. And this is why urban education for us is in shambles. Right? So this is something that we have to do. We are in an existential crisis. The Institute of Policy Studies in April of 2017 came out with a major report on the economic state of Black America. The conclusion of that report was mind-boggling. And the conclusion of that report, George, simply said, and I quote, by 2053, 10 years after the country is projected to become majority non-white, Black median families will own zero wealth if
Wow.
current trends continue, right? White
Zero.
median families, zero. They're already only they're only worth $8 in Boston. So they're 30 years ahead of the statistics. So we are working our way into a second slavery. So just as the report says, if the current trends continue, if nothing changes, if we don't do what we need to do, we will have zero wealth. That is in effect a second slavery. That's what it is. Try to operate in a market-based economy and a democratic capitalist society without money and see how that works for you. Okay? So, the essence of our financial education system, there are 75 modules, just teaching modules, 75. Everything you ever want to know about money, 75 teaching modules. There's a teacher's manual, a student manual. And no lesson is any longer than 45 minutes. And it's written in a way that we will enjoy it, love it. Movies, card games, all kinds of whistles and bells. Fun and interesting. And
Right.
so entertain our people and teach them at the same time, right? So, but at the end of the day, um, it really comes down to what we call the four pillars for the intergenerational transfer of wealth. That's, if we can understand the four pillars, there are four pillars for the intergenerational transfer of wealth. Dr. Fraser, what are the four pillars for the intergenerational transfer
Thank
of
you for
wealth?
asking.
Oh,
Yes.
I'm glad you asked, George. Uh, The first pillar is the proper management of accumulated wealth so that we can start reading about athletes and entertainers who earn $100 million in their career, and within 5 years of retirement, they're either broke or in bankruptcy. That is the improper management of accumulated wealth, right? So we know that George Kilpatrick is an awesome radio host and moderator. You're an expert in that. You've been doing that as long as I've been knowing you, and you're an expert at it.
Thank you.
What you're probably not an expert at is certified financial planning.
That is
You see,
correct.
that is a licensed skill.
Mm-hmm.
There are brothers and sisters all over America. Their only thing they do is study and understand proper financial planning. They even get licensed and certified in it. So my advice to a George Kilpatrick, continue to be excellent at what you do. Improve your skills, constant never-ending improvement, personal growth and development, lifelong learning. But leave the financial management of your money to people who have as much expertise in financial planning as you have in radio hosting. Right? LeBron James is the best basketball player around today. He makes $40 million a year, but he does not manage his money. You know who manages his money? Warren Buffett. If you gave Warren Buffett a basketball, put him on a step ladder, and asked him to slam dunk it, he'd miss the dunk. He doesn't give a, a rat's behind for basketball, but he knows how to manage money. Proper management of accumulated wealth. There are 2.2 million black households worth $400,000 or more, and there are 35,000 black millionaires in America. Don't get excited. There are 1.5 million white millionaires. The question is, are we properly managing that wealth? And the answer to that question would be held to the no, we're not.
No.
So
Okay.
we have to fix that. Proper management is the first pillar of wealth. The second pillar, or the four pillars of wealth, is real estate. What's the first thing God gave Adam? Real estate. What's the first thing God gave Isaac? Real estate, real estate, real estate. Real estate is the cornerstone of most wealth today. Real estate. Real estate is the biggest industry and rental, the biggest industry in America. Real estate, real estate, real estate. We came over here on the Mayflower. We own the fewest number of homes per capita of any cultural group in this country. We know that there are a lot of reasons for it, but still, in this day, in 2020, we still own the fewest number of homes. What is the third? Business ownership.
Sure enough.
Creating work and jobs for our people. And every immigrant group that has ever come to this country, George, has understood that for black people. We must create work and jobs for our people. By the end of the 21st century, we must become the #1 employer of our own damn people. Jews are the #1 employer of Jews. East Indians are the #1 employer of East Indians. Arabs are the #1 employer of Arabs. Chinese and Asians are the #1 employer of Asians. In fact, if you go into an Asian restaurant in the hood and there are 4 brothers waiting on you, leave. Because that's not a real Asian restaurant. Because Asians don't employ black people, they employ Asian people.
Okay.
And that's what they should be employing. Asians have solved their own unemployment problem, opening small Asian restaurants in urban neighborhoods. So, business ownership. Again, we came over here on the Mayflower, and we still own the fewest number of businesses per capita of any cultural group in this country. We must fix this in the 21st century. 97% of black people are employed. So that must be mitigated.
Wow. When I heard you say, I said, okay, yeah, no, that's not necessary. That's not a good thing at all. No, it's not a good thing at all. Wow.
Will make nothing, right? It is what it is. It's going to change. Today, the last 5-year reporting period, the U.S. Census Bureau, 2.6 million black-owned businesses. A 40% increase over the last 5-year reporting period. The overwhelming majority of those new businesses were started by black women. So black women are starting businesses in larger numbers than black men. That's good that they're starting businesses, but black men must start businesses too.
Yes, they do.
Now, that's the upside. Here's the downside of that. Of the 2.6 million black-owned businesses, only 111,000 of them employ anybody. And the average revenue, annual revenue generated by those 111,000 businesses is $1.2 million a year. That's up about 11% over the last 5-year reporting period. So that's the upside. That means that 2.59 million of those businesses are sole proprietorships. And the average annual revenue of those businesses is $18,700 a year, and that's below the poverty line.
Hmm.
And that is down 7%. What does that mean, George? It means you either grow or you die. You grow or you die.
Period.
So
That's it.
we
You got
we
one more.
have yeah, we have to fix that. We have to fix that. So business ownership is the third pillar for the intergenerational transfer of wealth. You cannot pass on a job. When you finish with your executive position, your corner office, that's the end. You cannot invite your son or daughter to take your seat.
That's right.
You can pass on a business, and you can create working jobs for our people. So that's the third. The fourth and final is proper insurance.
Mm.
That 6% of all wealth is transferred tax-free through strategic and tactical placement of proper insurance. There's an interesting article in the New York Times on Black people and their cell phones. And what they discovered in this report is that more Black people had insurance on their cell phones and on their own lives or the lives of their children by a factor of 10. So we value our cell phones
Wow.
more than we value our lives or the lives of our children.
Mm. Oh,
So proper insurance. Again, we don't have enough time to unpack all this, George.
that's heavy.
I could talk. I could talk a half hour on that, on each one of those things,
That's
but we're limited in time. One day I'll come back. We'll unpack one at a time.
no, we do. I mean, George, I'm sitting here. I'm not even talking. I'm just eating it up. And a lot of what you're doing, we have a money expert who actually does come on, and all of what you said, she's probably just like, yep. Talked about all of those things, the transfer of wealth, the net worth issues, and this is a good friend, Vicky Brackens, uh, and she talks about all of these things. And so this is right on time, and especially now, George,
That's
and
right.
looking at we are up against the clock. The take with after what do you want us to what do you want to leave us with, George?
I want to leave our brothers and sisters with three financial rules.
Hmm.
That if they follow these three simple rules consistently, they will find their way to financial freedom. But it will take time. Three simple rules, and we'll close with this. Number one, your rent or mortgage should be less than what you make in a week. Your rent or mortgage should be less than what you earn in 1 week.
Hmm.
That much of our financial mismanagement is that we are either over rented or over mortgaged. We are rent poor or house poor. Homes are the biggest pimps on the planet.
Hmm. Go ahead,
And
George.
if you are not prepared to feed that pimp, don't buy a home. You have to be prepared, and you have to buy the size home that you can comfortably afford. That's number one. Number two, only borrow money to make more money.
Hmm.
Real simple. Yes, you can borrow money for a home. Why? Because it's going to make more money. But to buy or to borrow money to buy an expensive watch or a diamond bracelet or necklace, you're not going to make any more money, because the moment you buy that diamond necklace or that watch and you walk out of the jewelry store and you turn back to go into the jewelry store and try to sell it back to them, you will get less money for it than you paid for it right then and there. It's the same thing with a new car.
Yeah,
Now,
tell me about it.
borrow as little money as necessary when you're buying a car. In fact, I've been married for 47 years to Nora Jean Fraser. We made a pact year one that we would never own a new car. We would always buy a luxury car 3 years off lease. So we're driving Lexus and Audis, right? Right? 47 years we've been buying 3-year-old cars off lease, and we keep them a decade. And we have a $200 a month payment. And then what we do is we figure out what is the difference between the payment that we're making on this used car and what a new car payment would be. So we're making a $200 payment each month. A new car payment would have been $500. We take that $300, George, and for 47 years, we've invested it. You don't even want to know how much money we have earned in 47 years investing $300 a month. You don't even know, right? In the millions.
Wow.
Right? Just because we made a decision, right, to never buy a new car, but buy a luxury car. We keep it for them about a decade, right? About a decade, because they hold up. And then we buy another one, 3 years off lease. And then we save the difference between the new car that year and the payment we're making. That alone. So that's number two. And finally, number three, I know I'm going over a little bit, but this is important. As your income increases, brothers and sisters, your cost of living should decrease or at least stay the same. Right? Stop living above your means, which means you spend more than you earn. Stop living even within your means, which means you spend everything you earn. And live below your means and invest the rest. That's my story, George Kilpatrick, and I'm sticking to it.
George Fraser is the CEO of FraserNet, the Power Networking Conference, thewincenter.org, frasernet.com. He's got the Power Podcast with Les Brown, the Facebook Lives, all of that.
We got our virtual conference coming up. We got the Power Networking Conference. We're not going to have it live. We're going to have it virtual October 27th through the 31st. 5 days, 5 hours a day, Power Networking Conference. Look out for all the promotion. Join us. It's absolutely free.
Wow. Power. And you get that on FraserNet.com or Power Networking?
We're building the platform out now. There'll be all kinds of promotions on it. So it's called, it's the Power Networking Conference. The theme is Operation Breathe, Coping with COVID-19.
And that is going to be October 24th through the
7th, October 27th through the 31st.
October 27th through the 31st, the virtual Power Networking Conference. We'll have the link for you here once we get the information. And obviously, I sat back. I just went to school today. And it's always a pleasure to have George Fraser in, the CEO of FraserNet. What a friend, what a mentor, and the brother always brings it. And we really appreciate you, George. Inspiration for the nation continues. And George has actually been a real influence for me to do this show. So I appreciate that, George. Inspiration
George,
for the nation.
Love you. Keep doing God's work. Stay the course, my brother. And that simply means chart a good and righteous course, and you have. Stay that course, and you have. And all that is due you will come to you.
I receive that in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you, George. Good stuff, brother. Good stuff. Appreciate you too. We'll be in touch, bro.
Okay. All right.
All right, bye.